5:09 tip-off, like you said. This is the first game on
TBS.
Friday.
Yeah, it's on Friday.
Yeah, on TBS. Illinois is favored by 2.5 in this game.
It's on Saturday.
Saturday, okay, that's why I was like, yes, Saturday.
Saturday,
Monday for some
you're right.
frustrating reason.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't want to play on Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
Just out of respect
Good
for
point,
Easter Sunday.
Good point. But yeah, Saturday, excuse me. Illinois is favored by 2.5. Illinois came out of the southern region, and UConn came out of the east region. And so that's kind of their paths. I know you have more
Top
kind
left,
of on how
bottom
they
left.
got here. Yeah, as you refer to them as. I know you have more on how they got here, but so before we
Well,
dive into the breakdown, if you want to touch on that,
that's,
you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, and I went back and watched. They played earlier this year,
They did,
actually.
yeah.
They played in the Garden back in November in one of those like invitational things.
Yeah, the
I went
Thanksgiving
back
break
and watched
stuff.
that game, broke it down, so we can go into that after you get to how those teams.
Yeah,
got here.
there's some about how they got here, but also like primarily like what's at stake, because like that was one thing I looked at for each team was like for coaches, for entire programs, like what's kind of at stake. For Illinois, it's their second ever championship appearance. It's on the line. The first one was in 2005, which I always really thought that was going to be as someone who's not a big NBA guy, and I was not watching college basketball when I was 3. I really thought it was the Melo years. I did not realize that he didn't even make the championship.
I mean, he didn't play at Illinois.
Where did he play? Syracuse.
Other
Other
orange
school.
school.
Other orange school.
Yeah.
And he won the national championship as freshman.
Apologies. I was looking. I was like, I swear.
I mean, that's a fair one to get confused. Both of the schools also just their logo is just a letter.
Literally,
Yeah,
that
it's
is
an
like
orange
the
letter.
biggest. Oh man. Anyway, well, that was their 2005 appearance. They have not won one, and then another thing that's at stake is for UConn. This is still for Illinois. They would be the second lowest seed to win a championship since 2015. The other low seed would have been 4 seed UConn, who won it in 2020. Or 3 seed UConn, who won it in 2023. I think they were a 4. I have in my notes.
They were a 4. I'm pretty sure.
They were a 4.
They were.
Illinois is a 3. Every other team that's won it since 2015 has been a 1 or a 2. So, maybe they're the underdog or the Cinderella, but like it doesn't really feel like it if you watch them play and you watch that offense.
Metro Shubin knew.
That's kind of what's there. And then for UConn, they are on the other end of the spectrum. They are not going for their first championship. They're going for their 7th championship and the 3rd in the last 4 years. And it would also kind of put them up there. It would separate them from Kentucky right now. There's a two-way tie for 3rd most championships of all time, which is, they would be right behind Kentucky. They'd break the tie with North Carolina. They both have 6 right now. So if they can get this would be their 7th. They would be 1 game behind Kentucky, and then still 4 games behind UCLA. So this is more of a less of a establishing like, a first-time championship, but more of like a dominant. And I saw a tweet about, are they a blue chip or a blue chip institution
Blue
or whatever?
blood.
Blue blood. Thank you. Like, this would be a big opportunity for that.
I mean, it would give them 3 championships in 4 years, even. Like just looking at that.
Yeah.
And I don't have it like in front of me who all has done that. But
UCLA's done it about 5 times. If you think about the 60s when they won, I think like 8 and 9 years or something.
They were the Celtics of college basketball back then.
Yeah.
But I wonder if this would be the first time in like the 64 team era, if some team has won it 3 times in 4 years.
I don't think so. I mean, because that would require winning it back to back, and there's not a lot of teams that won it back to back. Florida won it back to back. Villanova won it twice in a couple years, but they didn't win it 3 times.
Yep.
There's not a lot of teams that have won it 3 times in 4 years outside of, like I said, that UCLA program that won it a bajillion times in that period.
They've also been like really dominant too. Like this is their 8th Final Four appearance, and the previous 7 they've won the championship 6 of the previous 7 times.
Okay.
So
they don't
not
waste
winning,
opportunities on the biggest stage.
They're getting here and then they're getting to the ship and winning it. And they've done it from all different seeds. Shabazz Napier's team, Campbell Walker's team, and the last 2 teams as well. But the 3 and 4 years, that is unbelievably dominant, I think, for your blue blood conversation.
Yeah.
My 2 cents would be,
and
absolutely.
Not even with like, I mean, obviously they're getting good players. They put multiple players in the league, but they're not a Duke or a Kansas or someone that's getting like 5-star after 5-star. They're a little more on the developmental side. Even think like Stephon Castle and Donovan Clingan stayed multiple years. Alex Carabin, one of their best players this year. He's a senior. He's been on all these teams.
Yep.
They're good at getting like top 100 players, or like lower 5 stars or just higher 4 stars. They're not getting the best player in the country every year and like building a team around that guy. So they're doing it a little differently than your Dukes of the world. And, considering Duke keeps losing, maybe Duke should take notes.
Yeah.
Maybe my shot at Duke.
I don't think those players will ever do that. The formula seems to be pretty set there in terms
100%.
of 1 year and then get out of there.
It works out well for them. They go on to make a lot of money.
True. Do you want to talk about, go ahead and hit some of your
absolutely.
points?
So these two teams did meet earlier this year, which can be kind of rare, kind of depends.
Sure.
Auburn and Florida played in the Final Four last year, and of course they had played twice during the regular season. Earlier this year, UConn won 74-61. This was Game 7 of the year for both teams. Illinois was ranked 11th. UConn was ranked 6th at the time, so they really were right there where their seeds are. 11 would be a 3 seed, 6 would be a 2 seed.
Sure.
They haven't really changed from a seeding perspective. They've changed a ton from a team perspective, I can tell you that much. Going back and watching that game compared to this game, Illinois, more specifically, has changed a ton. But they played earlier this year. It was in the Garden, Madison Square Garden, New York. The Knicks actually had their NBA Cup court out.
That's
so it was
funny.
played on the NBA Cup court, and then they put, I forgot which company was sponsoring this
They slapped the logo on.
They put that on the middle instead of the Knicks logo, but it was on the NBA Cup court, which was really kind of weird to go back and watch. Mullins, the guy who hit the big shot against Duke and has had an excellent season as a freshman. He scored his first points of his college career in this game. Late in the second half, he scores a 2-pointer. In this game, UConn really kind of dominated, and they showed one of the things that I'm going to talk about a ton is their streakiness as a team. They hit 10 threes on 36% shooting, while the Fighting Illini, who was the number 1 offense in the country per KenPom, was 21% from 3.
Yeah.
Really bad shooting day for them. But for UConn, this is they are a very, very streaky team, and they showed this against Duke and their big comeback in the second half. In the first 12 minutes of this game against the Illini, they had 35 points. They finished the first half with just 43 points.
Dang.
Meaning
That's
for the
insane.
first 12 minutes, they were averaging 3 points a minute. The final 8 minutes, they were averaging 1 point a minute. Just unbelievable hot and then cold stretch. And then they did it in the second half as well. They had 64 points with 10 minutes to play, and if you remember the final score, they finished with just 74 points. They just scored 1 point a minute the last 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
And it really allowed the Illini to kind of get back into it. In fact, 4 of those 10 points were off a really goofy, I would, in my opinion, classify as an NBA flop on a 3-point shot that drawed the foul and it banked in.
Yeah.
And he hit the and one. It was backup point guard for UConn, Malachi Smith. That was 4 of their 10 points in the final 10 minutes.
Yeah.
One X's and O's wise, the Illini really struggled with what UConn is really, really good at, and that's their motion offense and the screen game and the back screens. It's really kind of unlike any offense you'll see in the country. That's why I thought Dan Hurley going to the NBA might actually work, because that kind of offense can really, really function with NBA players and NBA skill. Illinois, throughout the game, they tried to go under screens. It didn't work. UConn just hit threes over the top. They tried to go over screens. It didn't work. Solo ball, and Demery just finished at the rim.
Yeah.
The one thing they did not try was they did not try to switch on screens. I'll be shocked if they do that with the amount of height the Illini have. I don't like,
Tallest team in
either
college
the
basketball, is that
Viciouses
right?
versus tallest team in basketball.
Yeah,
against
they're a
solo
big
ball.
bruiser team, not
Yeah.
we're athletic, we're going to switch and move our feet with you.
Very unlike UConn. UConn probably could switch if they needed to. Terrace Reed has shown his ability to kind of defend on the perimeter. But yeah, they met earlier this year. UConn won 74-61. But like I said, Mullins, the freshman for UConn, he scored his first bucket of the season. And Illinois has changed a ton from then. Stojakovic, the son of Peja, Andre Stojakovic barely played in this game. He hadn't really got going. He was a transfer from Cal this year. He finally kind of turned it around for this team as we got to the second half of the season. But UConn's got the series so far, 1-0, but Illinois is favored in this game.
Yeah. And some other, you talk about that game, you just pull up the box scores. Do you know Terrace's Reed stat line from that game was 15 minutes, 2 points.
It's something I'll talk about in a little bit.
And then you look
I'll come back to it.
Yeah, you look at Braylon Mullins and his 10 minutes, 2 points, like you said, off that first field goal. both those guys are very different, and Terrace Reed has taken it even to another level since then. I believe in the playoffs, Mullins is averaging nearly 12 points a game.
Yep.
Reed has upped his game. I had it in my notes from 14.5 points per game to nearly 22 points per game.
Yeah, 22 a game, 14 boards a game,
Yeah.
and 2 blocks a game.
Yeah, up from 9 rebounds. So he was good in the regular season, but he's added 8 points per game and
He's been
4 or 5
unbelievable.
rebounds.
Yeah.
He's just kind of had he hasn't had like the March Madness run of insanity, right? Because he's got so much talent around him. He's not necessarily carrying UConn, but he's having one of a fantastic performance.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you don't get as much love if you're doing it in the post as opposed to if you're knocking down big threes, right? But he is
Yeah,
dominant.
I don't think he's had a 3.
He had a 30-20 game against Furman, which I know it's Furman, but he's the reason they won that game because Furman was hitting shots and all of UConn's perimeter shooters were not. It was like what is going on? I think they were 1 for 15 from 3 at one point. But Terrace Reed was down low grabbing boards. He was too big for the Bowser Bros.
10 to 12 offensive rebounds in that game.
Yeah,
It was
he had
ridiculous.
26 against Duke last round. He really has been phenomenal. I mean, Illinois also has grown. You talked about Stojakovic, but also Keaton Wagler has really come along as well from being kind of a, he did play, right? And, he was more of a shooter, and now he's really taken control of the offense. This is my offense. I have a ton of great pieces around me, but, if we need a bucket, I'm going to be the one to initiate the offense and try and go get a bucket. And I think that's allowed guys like Stojakovic to round into a better, secondary role and, try and get downhill more and stuff like that. It's really
he's
let
the
their offense
freshman.
blossom.
Yeah, 6'9" freshman.
Is he one of
leading
the
scorer.
top? Is he one of the top prospects you say remaining right now?
Some people think he can go 5th overall.
Okay,
I would say he's probably going between 5 and 8 would be
Okay.
my guess.
So he's probably the top prospect remaining then, because we've lost so many. We lost
he's the top
Acuff
prospect
and
remaining, I would say.
all the other guys.
Maybe
It's that, or
Koa
some people
Pete.
really like Burries.
Burries, yeah.
yeah.
So it's probably him or Burries as first off the board, with then Koa Pete and Yaxel, following not far behind. But it's probably those guys for sure, yeah. A couple other notes I have, just, it's going to be a slow game.
Yeah.
They're 300 and 301st in possessions per game, respectively. Illinois at 300, UConn at 301st. And so we're not going to see a game of this team plays fast, this team plays slow. Can this team, who can enforce their style? Both teams are going to be pretty comfortable with a slower paced game. UConn's going to love it because it allows them to, run their sets, run that motion offense, and, you just don't get panicked when you play that kind of offense. You're waiting for someone to eventually cut and find the opening. And then Illinois is totally fine playing their game, working it in the post to the bigger guys, finding 3-point shooters, knocking it down. They're top 10 in the country in 3-pointers made per game. But then another thing to know about them, they're top 5 in the country in offensive rebound percentage as well. So that's something UConn's going to have to look to do if they want to win this game, is finish possessions on the defensive glass.
Yeah, it might kind of surprise you. You hear #1 offense for the Fighting Illini, and you think, oh, they score a ton of points. Not really. They play a very slow and efficient. They're the #1 offense from an efficiency perspective.
Which we talked about the guys they play. It makes sense. You're not trying to ask the Vicic twins or like Merkovich to get up and down the floor at crazy pace. It's just not going to happen. But continue.
Vegas reflects this feeling. Total for Michigan, Arizona is 160. So you're looking at 80 points each. This game's at 140, 139.5, so 70 points each. Definitely going to be one of the lower scoring games. It opened at 140. It's dropped down to 139.5.
Yeah.
Kind of the questions I have for this game specifically. One of the things I noticed, and I'll go with the Illini first because we just talked about him in Wagler. I wonder if the youth of him being the freshman.
Sure.
There are freshmen all over college basketball, especially when you get to the top. A lot of elite freshmen are on teams. So it's a question for all freshmen. But I question specifically him because I went back and watched the first game between UConn and Illinois this year. I wonder if the youth of him is going to get to him in this bright spot. Because, as you said, he's completely changed. He's leading the offense now. He is the 6'9" point guard that's bringing the ball up the floor. But in the first game against UConn, he kind of struggled.
Yeah.
He got into early foul trouble, and then he had some turnovers. And Brad Underwood said at the time it was kind of a lack of trust in him. I would imagine he trusts him a lot more now.
Yeah.
But he only played 24 14 minutes in that game, and he finished with by far his lowest scoring output of the season, just 3 points.
Yeah.
For a guy that averages 19 a game. That's one of my first things I'm looking at, because I look at, the veteranness of that UConn side of the basketball, with them, of course, having players that have won a national championship before, like Carabin, and the coaching and everything. They've been here before.
Yeah.
You give Dan Hurley 5 days to prepare for Keaton Wagler. How does that look? Because he really needs to be kind of an engine for this Fighting Illini team.
Yeah.
Any thoughts there?
I completely agree. And even the turnover piece, too, is like, that's not something Illinois can afford, and it's something that's not characteristic of them. They're top 10 in turnovers per game.
He only had 2. I will say, he only had 2 in the game, but they were 2 bad turnovers.
Bad turnovers, correct. And part of them being, bottom 10 in turnovers per game is, well, they don't run a ton of possessions.
Right.
But they really do, since they play slow. They know how important having the ball is, in a low possession type game, and how important getting shots up, especially when you rebound the ball on the offensive glass as well as they do. So they really can't afford to let, UConn kind of get up in their face on the perimeter and force turnovers and let them get easy buckets. They've really cracked the code as a team that maximizes possessions and wins the possession battle and shot battle with the offensive rebounds and the lack of turnovers. And so they're going to need that to continue. And that does just start with him as the point guard.
Yeah, and then I kind of going off of that, you talk about maturity. That was one of the things I had in my notes is like, because of the game UConn is coming off of like being what Duke had a 95% chance of winning it, a 99% chance of winning it, and
up
UConn
10 with like 3 minutes. They're up 22.
Yeah, UConn ends up getting the steal late, hitting the buzzer beater. I can imagine that the emotion of that game, and I think I'm more of a football guy, and I think about how hard it is. I specifically go back to like the Tim Tebow era, where they win that championship and they come back and they probably were the best team in football, but they just lose games because they felt like they just didn't feel right.
If we even want to go on our hater route, even the Panthers won a big game earlier this season, and they got too big for their britches. Came back the next week and dropped a stinker against, who'd they lose to?
Saints. I know they lost to the
Saints.
Saints.
They lost to the Saints twice.
It was a team worse. Like, it was a team that everyone's like, you can't be losing to that team.
So it's just like, I wonder how, is that going to be a hurdle for that team, which I have complete faith in them to get over that hurdle, because you talk about how hard it can be to win a lot. Winning a lot can be exhausting, and that sounds like, my steak is too juicy, my lobster is too buttery, but winning a lot can be exhausting because especially as a coach, you have to keep that team locked in and keep them hunting, right? And Hurley had them win 2 championships in a row.
Yeah.
I have complete trust in his ability to take a team that had a 99% chance of going home in 3 minutes and then winning that game. I think he's going to have them locked in, and I do think that the maturity edge and the mental edge will be in UConn's favor.
It's something we haven't mentioned yet is just that from the Final Four in perspective, they hang banners for a Final Four. The fact that these teams have gotten here is already a tremendous accomplishment.
Yep.
The Meadowlands banner is up there, 1996. Of course, we have our 2 banners. They're actually both national runner-up banners instead of Final Four banners. But they hang banners for this stuff. And UConn has already hung 2, and now they're going to hang a 3rd in just 4 years. And I wonder if that's a good thought of, do they take that high emotion and kind of lead it with a stinker? Because they've done it before this season. We saw it against St. John's, the Big East tournament, where they lose by 20. They score 25 points in both halves. They really can't get anything going offensively. Now, Illinois is not of the defensive caliber, really, of St. John's, at least from a national brand perspective.
Yeah.
They've got the size to certainly be that in a big game like this. And you think of you're playing in a damn football stadium, Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. I wonder if there's a chance, UConn kind of slows down offensively. On the flip side, as a full counterpoint to that, I think about the second half against Duke. They hit just 3 threes in the second half against Duke in that 20-point comeback. So many points at the rim. And one of those threes, of course, the game winner. So really just 2 threes in that big run to get back in that game. I do think they have the veteran nature and the experience to kind of live with that, and if they get cold like they have in the past, I think they'll be able to find some kind of streak to get back into the game. Any other thoughts? I got 2 more, and we can get into picking this one.
Yeah, I had one more.
Yeah,
Let me
go
see
ahead.
if I can recall it. You said something that sparked the thought, and now I got to try and reel it back
I can
in.
hop in while you're thinking
Yeah,
of
you
it
do
because
that.
I got one more too, and it's about kind of the streakiness and UConn going cold, and it has been an issue for them of late. I mean, you mentioned they didn't shoot the ball well against Duke. I already mentioned they didn't shoot the ball well against Furman, and so it is a fear in this game that they go in and Caravan's not knocking down his shots. Mullen's shots aren't falling. Demery can't hit a shot, and we've all talked to it thanks to like the poise of this team and who Dan Hurley is as a coach. You kind of still expect them to stay in this game, right? But that being said, like at some point that's going to probably come back to bite you. You're going to run out of time to hit shots. So if they come out the gate, you really need guys like Caravan to have a good offensive day to help out Terrace Reed on the inside, because Terrace Reed's been fantastic, but I am worried like this Illinois team has great size, and I wonder if they're going to make that their priority, is we're not going to let this guy beat us on the interior. We're going to force them to hit shots. Now, maybe Terrace Reed's just that good, and he still just gives you 20 and 10 and keeps it rolling.
Yeah.
But maybe it does come down to, okay, he only has 12, and it's lower efficiency, and a lot of it's at the free throw line, like they're not giving him anything easy. Who's going to step up, and can Caravan and those guys hit their outside shots?
Yeah, the thing I wanted to ask about was the Illinois defense. And, it's pretty unusual for a team to be elite on both. Well, I'm not going to say unusual, but Illinois is the number one offense in the country via Ken Palm. And I just think about so many basketball teams where one side is their bread and butter and the other side they're good enough, right? I think specifically as a state fan of the Chris Jans, the first 2 years where DJ Jeffries, Cam Matthews, Toto Smith, defense was our bread and butter. We were winning games like 68 to 62, 62 to 50.
Oh, really? It was like 56 to 50.
Yeah, like that's, so we were really, really good at defense,
Yeah.
and then that was our bread and butter, and then we were good enough on offense to.
Worst three-point shooting team.
Yeah, exactly. We were good enough to make the NCAA tournament. And so I just wonder, like, is this Illinois defense, it's been good in the tournament, but is it going to be good enough against UConn? Because UConn is just a different breed than the teams they faced the past several rounds. So that's kind of my question is, what does this Illinois defense look like, specifically against Terrence Reed? Because Ken Palm, Iowa, and did they play Nebraska? Who did they play? It was Iowa and Houston. We're both technically ranked higher than UConn, but I just feel like UConn is playing above that 28th best offense right now, especially with Terrace Reed playing the way he is and stepping up in the tournament the way he has.
And they showed that in the first game too. Like you go back and watch that, I'd compare it to like watching an SEC offense that's got a good offense playing against a group of 5 team. Like they just have a really good day offensively. They just get whatever they want.
Sure.
And UConn did that for roughly 25 minutes of that game, and then they were about 15 minutes or so they were really cold. But in those 25 minutes, they got literally every single thing they wanted, and it did not matter what Illinois did. They couldn't stop them. I wonder how they'll adjust to that, because having seen that offense once already, it can, you give yourself maybe a better chance. I think at St. John's, like UConn beat St. John's by like 20 plus. St. John's comes back, sees that offense a second time, and beats them by 20 plus in the Big East tournament.
Yeah.
Is that something we might see in this game? This is one of those, with how cold UConn can get, it could be a game where a team wins by double digits. Sure. I'm going to go ahead and predict, I think this is a game where a team makes a 10-plus point comeback and at least ties the game.
Sure.
They may not win it. They might do enough to win it. But I do think this is a game where we're going to see a comeback in. I think Arizona and Michigan is just going to be trading punches the entire way. Yeah. And we're going to see a game that's close the whole way. But this is a game that you could see a team get up early. You're like, oh, UConn did it. Oh, Illinois did it. Number one offense, they did it. We'll turn off the TV. We'll come back for Michigan-Arizona. You turn it on 20 minutes before the Michigan-Arizona game, and this game's in overtime. Yeah. I think this is one of those games that could look like that. My last thing is, and I'm going to bring it up for the other game as well, does foul trouble dictate a game? I mentioned this the last time we talked. I think of Mark Williams and Duke and the Final Four against North Carolina that was played in New Orleans. Mark Williams, dominant center for the Duke Blue Devils that year. He got 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes. He did not play the rest of the 17 minutes of the first half. And North Carolina was able to get a 10-plus lead going into the second half. Yep. Duke made a run in the second half, but I think of guys in this game that they cannot afford that. And the first one that comes to mind is Terrace Reed. Terrace Reed, you mentioned already, like, with the size the Illini have, are they going to be able to throw bodies at Terrace Reed and kind of stop him? I wonder if they're going to be able to throw bodies on the other end of the floor.
True, yeah.
And get him in foul trouble and force him
Great
to
point.
try to block shots, which he's done an excellent job at so far this tournament. And because, he's facing 7-footers and such, and he's just 6'9" or 6'10", one of the two, is he going to end up hitting the dude on the arm instead of a ball?
Sure.
Does he get in early foul trouble? He's one of those guys, you cannot afford it. UConn doesn't have they don't have another Terrace Reed coming off the bench.
No.
It would be comparable to Tolu Smith, like Jimmy Bell's coming off the bench. Jimmy Bell can play, but he isn't Tolu Smith. He's not going to score at that high rate. And the other one is Al Carabin. I think he's the X factor to this game. It being his 3rd time playing in the Final Four, it'll be his 5th game on, in a football stadium in that big environment. I think he's the X factor to this UConn team, and I think he's the X factor to this game. And if he gets in early foul trouble, I am scared of what Solo Ball or Demery will do when it's on them to kind of lead a little bit. They run a ton of offense through Carabin and try to get him shots, and then he's just such an excellent passer in their offense. He cannot get in foul trouble. I go back to the first game. I just mentioned Terrace Reed. He got in early foul trouble against the Fighting Illini, and he only played 15 minutes in that game because of the foul trouble. We've already seen that happen. That can't happen for UConn, and I feel like it dictates the game. The Illini side, I think it's a little bit more spread out. They got enough bigs to wrap around, and I don't think there's like one player they're really going to rely on too much. I don't expect Keaton Wagler to get in foul trouble.
That's what I'm saying. He's the one guy you really can't afford to lose, but just he's not a guy that really is going to find himself in foul trouble, I don't think. If it does, it means he's made a couple really stupid decisions. And he's even a guy I feel like you feel better about playing with multiple fouls just because he's on the perimeter, he's a guard. Mm-hmm. You can tell him, if someone gets you under the basket, just let him have it. So, I agree. Do we want to pick this game real quick and move on to the next?
Let's do it.
I got Illinois.
Okay.
I've talked about it on the show before, but me and my friend do a joint bracket every year. And we kind of fell in love with this Illinois team in our bracket selection process. And they've proven us right for the reason we fell in love with them is just their offense and how smart and smooth and just, sound they play. And then you got but then you do have the guy, the flamethrower in Wagler to bring the punch. Mm-hmm. And so I think they can get it done here. I think they're going to find a way to, put up more shots like I talked about than UConn. UConn will keep it close. I don't see a world where Dan Hurley of all coaches goes out with a whimper in March Madness. It just doesn't seem like it's going to happen, but I do think Illinois is going to pull through.
They've only lost once in the last 4 years, and that's to Florida,
the national champion. Yep, and it was a 2-point game, 4-point game, something like that. So
that's crazy that we're potentially 2 points away from talking about like a UConn 4-peat.
It would have been hard for the UConn to make the whole run last year, but you never know.
Because you think of, Florida, all those comeback wins they had to get. You think UConn might be in the same spot, not make the comeback. Sanders, you got a pick for this game?
Yeah, I'm going UConn. Like I talked about earlier, like the mental game of being in the Final Four. Dan Hurley and UConn just have a huge advantage with a coach that's been there multiple times, a couple players, a couple leaders who have been there before. It's just, I think it's going to turn out to be an advantage when it comes down to it. I think offense is a lot easier to go cold in a different environment.
Very different.
In a different stress level, right? Now you are playing for something very different than you were playing for even like a week ago. It is just different to play for the chance to win a national championship than to go to the Final Four. So it is, and you're playing a different level team, Illinois is, than you have been. So I'm going to go UConn.
I'm going to go UConn as well. I think I trust their offense. I trust what I've mentioned a ton, their veteran nature, their experience in this game.
Yeah.
I do think Wagler's going to struggle early on and maybe throughout the entire game. And so if Illinois is going to have a chance in this game, I think they're going to have to rely on guys like Boswell and Stojakovic to kind of slow the game down and get them in the game. Boswell scored 25 points, and he kind of started leading the comeback in the second half in the first game. I think he's going to have to be really critical along with Stojakovic because I do think Wagler's going to struggle. I think Terrace Reed's going to have a fine day, but Carabin's the X factor, and I think he'll have his best game here, maybe not so much in the final against whoever he plays. So I'm going to take UConn but I'm going to take Illinois to make a 10 to 15 point comeback, take the lead, then lose.
Sure.
I just hope we get a close game. That's all I really
I
care
think we're
about.
going to have 2 close games.
Because we had, the whole, the way March Madness is now, it feels like we get more blowouts and the high seeds dominate the lower seeds. And, people, they're like, oh, but it doesn't matter because it means the elite teams are just really good. Well, if that's not true, then it's kind of like, well, what was this all for? Like, we got blowouts in the first couple rounds for what? To have blowouts in the Final Four. So I just need...
We got great games in the Final Four last year.
Correct, we did. So I just need that to be the case again. I feel like that's not really something... that's just not a good trade if we end up getting a bad game here in the Final Four, too.